So what else do you want to know about? How about swimming in Walker Lake?
Yeah.
Well, near Hawthorne and Babbitt, where we lived, was a lake that was about 7 miles long and about 3 miles wide. And back when I was growing up, it had cutthroat trout in it that were really large. You could get championship cutthroat trout out of this thing. It was really a nice lake. But the lake was sinking all the time because they were taking more water from the river that fed the lake than the lake was losing by evaporation or just sinking into the dirt. And but anyway, you could swim in this lake. It was a little mossy along the edges of it for about 6 feet. You had to kind of brave the moss as it squished between your toes as you walked into it. And you'd try to swim as soon as you could and get away from the moss and swim out a little ways. And the moss or the water had a lot of salinity to it because the lake was dropping, so all the minerals were being concentrated, kind of like Salt Lake City, the Great Salt Lake, except it was never concentrated to that extent. But it enough so that when you got a mouthful of this water, pooey, you don't want to spit it out. But anyway, we swam in that lake a fair amount because it was one of the few places to swim. And sometimes we'd go as groups. Sometimes we would, I can remember waiting patiently all day long in our front yard because somewhere along the line, my mom and another mom from our ward, the other mom said she would take us swimming, but after she got her housework done. Well, she was thinking, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We were thinking 10 o'clock in the morning. And so we had our swimming suits on, ready to go, out in the front yard for hours, waiting for Sister Treehorn to come by and pick us up, take us swimming. Which she finally did after hours and hours. We thought she was never coming. But anyway, she finally came and she took us swimming. But we would go as Sunday school classes out there. We would go have picnics out there sometimes. 4th of July, we'd have big community activities out there sometimes, have fireworks out there by the lake. So the lake was really quite a nice place to go to. It would have been better if the water were better and if the moss wasn't so bad. But the lake was a nice place to go as a diversion from the desert that was all around Hawthorne.
Tell us the story about the fireworks.
Which fireworks?
The one where they all blew up.
Oh, well, the fireworks where they all blew up. Well, this was later. I think I had actually gone to college for 1 year. Or something. I'm pretty sure I was just finished my freshman year of college and I was working in Hawthorne the next summer. And they held the fireworks where everybody would sit in the bleachers of the high school baseball field. So you had those bleachers, behind the backstop, behind the wire, and then you had the entire baseball field, and then you had a gap, and then you had a road, and then it was further out in the desert where the fire department was actually setting these things off. Well, anyway, somehow, early on in the show, they made a mistake. And embers from something falling back down or something exploding prematurely, I don't know how it happened. But all of a sudden, there was this gigantic ball of flame really close to the ground. And it took a while for it to get there to us. We saw the flame first. But all of a sudden, this big concussion, boom! And it knocked us back, because we were in the grandstands a ways away from it. Huge boom! And waited for a few minutes, and everybody was kind of getting their ears from not ringing anymore. They announced over the loudspeakers, well, that's the end of the fireworks. They all blew up at once. So somehow they hadn't done something quite right. Okay, and these guys were all supposed to be experts at this. And it was the biggest explosion I had ever personally witnessed myself. And I don't know, no one got hurt that was setting off the fireworks that was a lot closer to them. We theorized that the concussion actually builds pressure the further away you get, and they were able to jump out of the way. I think they had like a little foxhole that they could jump into, and they were able to dive into whatever protection they could get into before this thing actually blew up, and they were all okay. But it rocked us back in our seats. I'm telling you, this was tremendous pressure from this wave of an explosion.
Was
Just
it hot?
really hit it. No, but it was blinding. It was just all of a sudden this big orange ball pretty close to the ground. And yeah, it was truly amazing.